All right. Hi, everybody. Everybody's coming in. We've got a
Hello.
lot of really great
Hello.
presenters today, and we're talking our favorite things, Google. And we can't wait to share some of our favorite tools and features and tips and things like that with you. So as you head into the school year, you have all sorts of new ideas on how you can use Google Workspace for education in your own classrooms or as an IT manager. Anyway, so a couple housekeeping things. If you have questions throughout the session, please make sure to ask them over in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it. The rest of our presenters, I'm sure, will be keeping an eye on it, and we can answer anything as we go. Otherwise, we can save them for the end at Q&A. And then the other last thing, if you are interested in getting that $5 Starbucks gift card, I need you to hang out until the end to take the exit survey. That's our way. It's your way of really raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm here and I want coffee. So make sure you stick around and do that. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk, so I am going to push it over to Josh to really get us started.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? In case we have not met, I am Josh, and I have the pleasure of kind of emceeing this program a little bit for us. Let me introduce you to our talented folks here. Are you guys seeing my screen? I've already started screen. Okay, good.
Yes.
We've got a great group of people here that are going to provide a ton of inspiration. John, give everybody a wave, John. That's
Hi, everybody.
John. He is our resident Google guy, our Google guru, and we're happy to have him. Moving on, we have Anna Hanrahan. Say hello, Anna.
Hi, everybody.
Anna is on our education initiatives team, and she's got some fun stuff to talk about. Actually, maybe one of my favorite things to talk about, the read aloud. You guys are not going to believe what's available in that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Kristin's here. Say hi, Kristin.
Hey, y'all.
Kristin is a dear friend of mine, and she's got some fun things to talk about as well. We're going to do this like our favorite, like our hit parade of our favorite Google things. And in case you missed it and you just popped in, my name's Josh. And I'm going to go first since I'm the one talking. And I'm going to tell you about practice sets. So before I do this, let me just explain a little bit about the theory behind practice sets. So I had a teacher friend of mine who had this teaching strategy where she would watch her students actually do the work. She would put eyes on those students and like watch their eye movement and like physically watch them do this work. And I asked one time, I was like, what are you doing when you're watching these students do this work? And she said, Josh, if you watch close enough, you will see them where they're making the mistakes, and you can dial in directly to that mistake. You don't have to spend a bunch of time doing item analysis to figure out what's going on. You can zero in on the very specific kind of mistake that they're doing and correct that. And I just love the idea of that close watch of the learning process. And when I saw practice sets start to come out, I thought, that's the AI version of that. So let me just explain this. You're familiar with Google Forms, right? You know how teachers have been using Google Forms to do quizzing for a long time. So practice sets is a version of that, just like Google Forms, except it has some AI in the background that's doing that kind of teacher thing where it's watching them, watching the cognitive process, and it knows where the mistakes are when students get something wrong. And it can serve up content to them that says, hey, it looks like you missed this negative sign on this problem. Let's go back and reteach that. So you're probably starting to think like, where does this content come from? Well, a couple of different things. You can use, just like in Google Forms, it has all of the question types that you're familiar with from Google Forms. So if you want to do constructed response, you can do that. Short response, multiple choice, multiple check, all of those things are built in. Then as you create that content, you tag it to what you and I would call standards. They're just calling it skills. So I'm gonna build out this one problem and say this is, subtracting doing one-step equations, and I can hit that as a skill. And then as students get those questions right or wrong, it will serve up content for them to help navigate that learning process. It could be in the form of a little digital card that explains the process. It could be in the form of a YouTube video. It can come from lots of different places. So you can create content directly in the system. But here's another thing that you can do that I just think is genius. You can take existing content that you have in the form of like PDFs or other like image-based material, and you can load that in, and practice sets will recognize that as a question and can create a question around that. Now, the dirty word in education is worksheets. You know, you're not allowed to say worksheets because that's a bad word. But the reason why people don't love teaching with worksheets is it's a very passive learning experience, right? You just do the worksheet and you hand it into your teacher, and who knows what happens with it after that. Doing that kind of work through practice sets makes that very passive experience active, and it will help illuminate some of those mistakes that students are making and try to do some course correction on that. Let me show you one more slide about this. When we create, let's say we're doing this through some traditional kind of testing measure. Then what has to happen is the teacher would have to go through and do an item analysis on this to see if there's any patterns in the assessment, and know where the reteaching needs to occur. Practice Sets does all of that for you. It'll do a complete item analysis. It'll show you the student work. If you can see this area right here, I get to see the student work that was submitted, and I can know where the mistakes were, how many times they tried it, and did they eventually get it right? Is it still wrong? Is this concept that I need to reteach? This is all being shown here in the context of math, because that's where it kind of makes it's easy for me to show you an example of math. But this is not just math. Any place where I would have automated grading, like through multiple choice or short constructed response or multiple checks, it can do practice sets available for any content and any subject that fits that criteria. I see there's some stuff happening in the chat. Let me just check in and make sure. Oh, okay, the introductions. No questions about that, right? Awesome. So with that being said, I want to pass this along to Anna, because Anna's going to talk about a couple of projects that I really love. One being Read Aloud, another one being Google embedded questions. Anna, do you want to get us started with that?
I do. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my Google Classroom here? Okay, I got lucky with this presentation because I feel like I get to present on the most exciting part of all this, as far as myself as a former elementary teacher and a STEM teacher. I'm just so excited about these two different things that I want to talk to you about. And the first one is this new YouTube feature about embedding questions into a YouTube. Now, a lot of people are familiar with Edpuzzle, I would guess, and Google Classroom and YouTube have kind of collaborated to be able to do something very similar right here within Google Classroom. Now, this is part of the add-on features in the teaching and learning upgrade in Google Classroom, and they have so many different add-ons that you can choose from. You know, some of everybody's favorites like Pear Deck and Kahoot, but I only have time to pick a couple, so I was going to focus on YouTube and Read Aloud. But the YouTube one is so easy to do. You just go in here like you normally do and create an assignment. You can give it a title. Let's see, you can call it whatever you want. And you click on YouTube. And here you can either paste the URL that you already know and that you already have, or you can search for a topic like you would in YouTube. And I'm going to show you our Tom Triceratops books. You know, shameless plug for our Storybook Hub. And here we have a couple that popped up. And this is the first one. This is all about Tom Triceratops and Friends Learn About Coding. So I could just play it like normal, watch the video. And as I'm watching it, as a teacher, I can pause it wherever I want. Can pause it there, and I can add questions. And I'm going to show you one that's finished here in a minute. Over here, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to add a question, and you can choose multiple choice. You can choose checkboxes or open-ended. So if you chose multiple choice, you can just add your question in there, put in your different options. You can add more options if you want to, or you can even take some away. I also like that you can, I'm going to go to a different place here, and you can add checkboxes. And for the checkboxes, you can put more than one correct answer. And you can also do open response. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you that I already did this one here. I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom. And I'm going to show you the one that's completed. And it's the same video, and I can go ahead and skip right ahead to the question. And the question here was, what did Kate think the problem about the structure might be? And the correct answer is the sticks and twigs were uneven. I'm going to submit it. It's going to give immediate feedback to the students that they were correct. And then they can continue on watching the rest of the story until they get to this next question. And this is one of the checkboxes one. And this one actually has more than one correct answer. So it said, what is true about coding? And the instructions need to be specific, and coding follows exact steps. But I'm going to pick an incorrect one here just to see what it does and submit. And it said, try another answer. So I'm going to deselect that and try again. And I'm in good shape and I can continue on. And the final one, if I forwarded, would go to an open-ended question and they would have to type in their answer here. So this is just such a great way to increase engagement and accountability in the classroom. Once students have finished this, their answers will go back to the teacher per normal. They have to submit their assignment and the teacher will see how well they, engaged with the video, how well they followed it, how their comprehension was. So I think that is just such a neat add-on to have integrated right within Google Classroom. Were there any questions that popped up about that, Josh? No, we're good?
I haven't seen any yet.
All right, the second one is my favorite. I'm going to create another assignment. I would do a title, I would do instructions, and I'm going to click read along here. And if you haven't seen this, this is such a great feature for the teaching and learning upgrade. And Kristin, I know that you've had a lot of experience with this too, so feel free to jump in if you'd like to. But once you get in here, there are stories that it has K through 6 here, but there's really only a few for 6th grade. So I think it's more appropriate for K through 5. And you can select stories for your entire class or batches of kids or individual students based on either their Lexile levels or their grade levels. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick 3rd grade, and I will pick the 500 to 600. Well, let's just stick on 3rd grade. And all of these different stories are going to come up. So this looks like a good one, the monster shopping trip. And I can either go right up here and attach the story right from my Google Classroom to either the entire class or which students are appropriate for this level. But I want to show you the student view to show you what they see as they are assigned this. I think this is just such a neat feature. So this is Dia down here, and she's going to help you. And I'm going to just show you an example here just as we get started to show you what you can expect as you read through this. And it says, Harry Henry is a handsome green monster. He lives in a small house in the, she'll help with the words there. All his friends live nearby. And then you get stars. The students collect stars as rewards. Soon it is Harry Henry's birthday. Looney Lou and Gorgonzola decided to buy him a present. So as you read through these stories, comprehension questions pop up to keep the students engaged. And Dia is going to tell us how we did on that. And we get more stars with that as well. So I think that these are just so engaging and such a cool feature for students during independent, sorry, Dia, I'm going to get out of here. For independent reading in small groups and center time. And Josh, I'm going to take this back. I'm going to stop sharing. Can you bring up the slide about the analytics?
Sure. Yep, I sure can. Bear with me for one quick.
So on the back end of things, and Google Classroom, the teachers are going to be able to see how the students are doing and how they're progressing through these stories. And, they're going to be able to measure things like their oral fluency, obviously, and their comprehension. And it's really going to grow with the student as they go along. I think we're going to go just to the next one. Yeah. So this shows you the individual assessment of a student. We've got her reading accuracy right here up at the top in that green line. She's got 596 words read correctly and 39 incorrectly read. It shows you which specific words need practice. And if you have a group of children reading these same stories, you can have classroom data on that as well, which words were overwhelmingly read incorrectly by students, which I think is so amazing. It has some comprehension data pulled up down there at the bottom. 6 out of 6 questions were correctly answered. And it also measures the speed down at the bottom, the correct words per minute. So this was an individual assessment. Josh, can you go to the next one? And this tracks the reading over time. So this shows the progression over 5 different stories. It shows the different charts that show the accuracy, comprehension, speed for the last 5 reading books that they engaged in. And then one more, Josh. That next one. And this tracks the overall class performance, which I just think this is so neat too. As you can see over on the left side, it has all the different students, but it just kind of breaks it up and shows where the class as a whole is really progressing and doing well and where they might be struggling in, these different reading assignments as well. So this is Read Along. It is integrated right into the add-ons and Google Classroom, but you can also go to the Read Along website and students can, engage in these stories from the website for free. You're just not going to have all of this back-end information to follow up with it.
Yeah, that's good, Anna, because actually Brad had asked a question in the chat, and there's a little bit of a note here that's worthwhile. So, Google is always going to have some version of a free for education license, which we love, we're very proud of, and what they have there is great. But a few years ago, when they announced that they were going to start to make premium features available and paid, I got really excited about that because I knew what that means is there's going to be a ton of research and development going into some of this really high-end stuff. And the theme that's emerged already pretty early is some of these things that we've done historically in education that are very passive, like here, go watch this video, now becomes an active learning experience. Same thing with, I was mentioning with the worksheets, the same thing with like silent sustained reading is like kind of, there's a lot of people that are not really sure about whether or not that's a best practice. Here we're taking something and we're giving students quality feedback on the process. And the short way of answering that question, Brad, is on this one, the read along, it is available in a free version, like Anna was saying. But if you are an Education Plus customer or you're a teaching and learning customer, you get really tight integration into your whole environment. The practice sets that I showed are available in a very limited release for all, but then full version for Education Plus and for teaching and learning. The YouTube embedded questions, I think, John, I'm going to go to you next, but I believe that that's in the same category, teaching and learning and Education Plus. But while we're making this transition, John, I'm really excited because I know a little bit about what you're going to talk about, but I have not seen you present this. And this is all about connecting with learners who we all have different learning needs. And we were just on a call. I know this is not relevant for everybody, but we were just on a call with a really inspirational gentleman from HP. And when he was talking about this idea that there is something on the horizon where all learners, regardless of their learning styles, their preferences and abilities, we will see a day when we're going to do a plan or an IEP for everyone, really, where we can be that specific, and it's technologies that are allowing us to do that. So can you talk to us a little bit about what Google is doing to help us connect with learners with varying needs and preferences?
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. So, I mean, my background is as a special educator. So, I spent 17 years as a special education teacher with mostly K to 8th grade students. But I get really excited working with Chrome and Workspace and seeing how they have so many features within. Most of them are in all the free versions. So just about 90% of what I'm going to show you that are accessibility features for helping, supercharge instructions for diverse learners. And we'll talk about how to define that term, diverse learners. But most of the tools that I'm going to talk about are part of that whole free ecosystem of Chromebooks and, like the free Workspace editions. And just to briefly answer a question that was in the chat, there are 4 Workspace editions, the free one, Fundamentals, and then Standard, which is the first of the paid tiers, which has some security and analytics features. And then Teaching and Learning, which is when it really starts to bring in all of those powerful instructional tools. And then Plus is that premium top tier of Workspace that has all of the features of the previous, having to do with both instructional features for teachers and for students, but also for, tech director, admin sort of features as well. So that's the real comprehensive one. And I'll only be showing you a couple features that are for accessibility that are in that EDU Plus, that top tier, because just about everything else I'm going to mention is available everywhere. So, a couple months ago, I was putting together a presentation about Workspace and how it pertains to special education. And I came across Google and their term diverse learners. Now, I don't know if Google created this term, but they use it and they lean into it pretty hard, and I love it. It's a really, really great way of changing the way we think about obstacles to learning that just about all of us have one way or another. So a diverse learner is just about anyone who has a barrier to their learning, and that barrier could be it could be socioeconomic, it could be a language, issue, it could be any number of differences. And I like to think of all of the accessibility features that we could provide as teachers and that we can figure out a way to utilize through Chrome and Workspace as helping create a bridge for students to get to opportunities to learn, to get to those places where they can access the curriculum and really have meaningful experiences in school. Really, it's all about equity, which is, of course, why I obviously want to show you just about most of the stuff I'm going to show you and talk about is for everyone. And we wouldn't be talking about equity if it wasn't for everyone. So let's go to the next slide, Josh, and we'll talk about how Google, and we'll skip over this one too. Go to the next one. Yeah, so within Google Workspace for Education and Chrome, Google breaks down its accessibility features into 4 categories. But some of these categories are even limiting for some of the features and how they can be used to supercharge instruction. But those 4 different categories are vision, mobility, cognitive, and hearing. And so what I'd like to do is take a look at really just kind of highlight 1 or 2 from each of these 4 sections. And then at the end, I'm going to talk to you about some conversations I had with paraprofessionals about how they really have figured out a way to use Google tools to bring more meaningful and equitable instruction to the students, and also to make things more organized and make things work out better and more productively in a special education classroom and in a general education classroom. So within the first category of vision, this is just a selection of some of the features that are available. Type with voice, screen reader. Some of these are very obvious what they are in their title. And we don't have time to go through all of them, but I do want to let you see one really great one. And so let's move forward, Josh. Okay, so screen reading, which is just going to allow a student who may have a vision impairment to have things read. So it's going to read aloud text. It's going to provide auditory cues. For example, there could be opportunities for images to be to have text read to them that describes that image. So this is really a game changer for students who have vision, low vision or vision impairment, because it's really going to provide that equity and allow them to have things read to them. Okay, moving on. So within mobility, there's a lot of great features within Chrome and Workspace. Keyboard shortcuts, one that I like to talk about because it's kind of the easiest to explain. If you think about what is required of you physically with your hand to do like Control Alt Delete, it's sort of a complicated movement that you have to do with your fingers. And for students who, may be missing fingers or have mobility issues with their hands, I've certainly seen things like this be used in my classroom previous with students who have a disability. So sticky keys is just a very simple feature. Again, it's in all Workspace and Chrome, not paid editions, but all editions, where you could turn a multi-key, device such as Control Alt Delete, you could assign it one key. So that way you can allow that student to just type one key and for them to be able to make that happen. So we'll move on to the next one. So dictation is just a feature. Again, it's present in all aspects of the Google ecosystem, where it's just going to allow a student to verbalize what they want to be written down. And that's going to take away barriers. It's going to take away the barriers if they have a hard time typing or spelling. It's just going to remove barriers. They can tell their story and turn it into text. They can talk about what they just read. They can summarize things, and very easily with a click or two of a button or some assistance from a paraprofessional, they could turn what they're saying into text. So that's a really great one too. Okay, under cognitive, there's a whole bunch of different features here that you could see. And within this, we'll talk about captioning, which is the one I want to really dig into. Oh, well, no, first we'll talk about type with voice. Forget about that one. So you're going to type and edit by speaking into Google Docs. This is across all of the various Google Slides, Google Docs. They would just use this feature, and they could create slides just by talking into the microphone. And that's going to certainly remove barriers. Next one. Okay, under hearing. Oh yes, this is when we're going to talk about live captioning and some of the cool stuff that happens in Google Meet. Okay, so live captioning is something that is only a feature in Workspace for EDU Plus, although they do plan on rolling it out in the other all aspects of the Workspace editions. But for right now, live captioning is a really, really great feature that's going to allow students who have a disability, for example, in hearing, they can read what is being said within a Google Meet. And this is going to be great for, remote instruction, and it's going to also allow for translation into another language, which is there's live translation. And again, that's another feature that's only available in Workspace for EDU Plus right now, but they do plan on eventually having that be available for everyone. Again, I really do think, based on everything I've learned working with Google and working with Workspace, that it is their plan and their intention to make everything available and all of these sort of accessibility features really equitable for everyone. So I think that's kind of cool. And next. Yeah, just a little snapshot of some of the translated captioning that can happen right now in French, German, Portuguese, Spanish. You can see on the screen there's a lot of languages. They're still working on expanding this, but again, this will be available free eventually as well. All right, that's accessibility. I don't know if there was any questions about any of those, Josh, in the chat.
There's not, but this thing, I wonder if I just skipped a bunch of slides. I didn't mean to do that if I did. Oh, here we go. Google Meet translate and then map learning path. Is this
let me just mention that real quick. So this is, I had mentioned at the beginning of my presentation that, when I was starting to talk about it, that there's some really great examples of how paraprofessionals and special educators, leverage Google tools to make, to really do some really cool things to help organize IEPs and help make sure that students are, really making their academic goals. So here's an example. A paraprofessional and a student might share a doc, which would allow the paraprofessional to sit away from the student. I know in my classroom before, I've experienced that sometimes somewhere around, you know, second, third grade, a student that has a one-on-one, a one-to-one paraprofessional doesn't necessarily want that adult sitting next to them all day. They may feel like that is, you know, a sort of like, you know, a stigma or something. So, you know, this will allow them to communicate. They could be in across the room from each other. That para can communicate over a shared Google Doc or some other shared Google product. So I think that's kind of a cool example. And I'll just skip down and do another one. This, you know, this is a game changer too, in terms of, you know, it's very complicated to organize the many dates and data points involved in writing and in keeping an IEP going and managing meeting dates and you know, all the data that is involved in collecting data for an IEP. And you could certainly organize that within forms in Google Calendar, and you could keep parents and teachers and paras and students all sort of in the same place, organized together under Google products, and that helps them keep track of all of that information. So
this is so inspirational, John, because when we talk, you know, there's a phrase that gets used a lot in education, like, you know, coding for all, or, you know, whatever for all. And I love that, but I get a little concerned when I think about the fact that there are some students who might not be counted in the all. And to think that Google is putting these kinds of resources into creating accessible materials, when we say all, we mean every child in that building is going to have access to the same learning experience, you know, regardless of you what color skin you have or what, you know, what your abilities might be or whatever. We're going to be able to get you the materials. And Anna and I just had a child we were working with and on a project in help me, Lynchburg, Illinois. Is that right? Yeah.
Litchfield.
Yeah, Litchfield, Illinois. And we had created some really beautiful content. Of course, the content that we created was in English, and this child needed it in another language. And it was, I'm not kidding, John, 2 clicks, boom, boom, boom. And we had this material ready to go with closed captioning in their language. And I just thought, this is the kind of learning experience that our grandparents dreamed about, you know, and we're able to do it now with this really profound tech integration, which brings me to the last, but certainly not my least favorite. I'm telling you, and not only do I love Kristin, I love the content that she's going to be talking about is originality reports. This is something that's fitting for you because as an ELA teacher, you're teaching this concept quite a bit. And I'm sure you're going to cover this, but when I see originality reports, it's not just about catching children cheating. It's about reminding them how to give credit where credit's due.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to backstep just because I want to pitch off of something that John had said with the Google Meet translate feature, y'all. So that to me is not just when you're in a Google Meet. I could see me in the classroom today just have a Google Meet open, not even with invited guests, just open in my classroom with my panel or whatever device I might have, so that the students who are not first language or they're EL students, they could just see the translations going. I would use that every single day. I just feel like there's so much power in that. Okay,
Yeah,
that's something I wish I would have had a year ago, because I was constantly trying to translate and do. I just see it's so much power. All right, y'all. So originality reports. This is something that I really love this. So Josh already said that I was an ELA teacher, but y'all, this is not just ELA. This is anytime you have an assignment for students that they have to turn in some kind of content that should be originally created. So whether it be on a document that they own and they add, or even if you make a copy for the students for them to add their own information. So like just depending on how you assign it in Google Classroom. The purpose of it is to allow students to run the originality report. Okay, so let me repeat that so we understand. Originality reports teachers might think, oh, I'm going to find out if they've done some plagiarism and we're going to see if they use Big Brother's paper. It is designed with the intent that students run the originality report and they can see anything that might be closely, go ahead and go to the next slide, Josh, while I say this, might be closely related to something that they needed to add citations to, or it might be mistaken for plagiarism. So I do have that, I do have a lot of words there. Oh, we raising hands now. Is that me? Do y'all see what I see?
I don't, but I'm not. I don't know if
I see something that says I'm going to be the audience Q&A. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. It doesn't matter. Do you see that, Anna? Okay, it's all right. It's all right. So
yeah, I see it.
So go back, Josh, 2 or 1. Go back 1. There we go. There we go. All right. So it's a lot of words on the left, but that is just to say that teachers will turn on the originality reports when they create the assignment, and then students will run the originality report on their work to be able to check to see if they have any kind of unsighted content or anything that might be flagged for plagiarism. Now, this is where the learning comes in. At this point, students can say, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. So at that point, they can look at the report, compare it to what they've written, and edit and modify. So it's intended for the kids to be able to pull it and learn from it. Now, again, they turn it back in or do what they're going to do with it as far as their assignment goes, get it to the teacher. The teacher will get a copy of an originality report. And if the administration console has it turned on, where it will check for, I'm making sure that I'm reading it exactly like it is, the administration console will have to be able to have the plagiarism checker within their platform, like where it compares it to other students in the school and in the district. It also can check that depending on the settings in the console. So originality reports, powerful, powerful. And I think like with the free version, you get maybe 3 or 5. And then if you get, you know, the next levels up, the tiers up in Google, you get more for your money. All right, we can go to the next thing. All right, so in addition to doing like just what you already have in Google, like the originality reports, the Google Meet features, I kind of love this part of Google, all the nerdy stuff, like the quick tips and tricks. So on the next few slides, y'all, I'm just telling you some of my favorite things. So what you see right here is Google Jamboard. A lot of people are very familiar with Jamboard. It's either a nightmare situation for some, or if you're like me, love it. I have just a couple jams that I created there. I just put those here to say that if you ever go to use Jamboard, y'all, don't think of it just as a slideshow. It is not. It is an interactive experience for your students. So I taught middle school, most recently 8th grade, for a very long period. And those 8th graders, I'm going to tell you what, they can test every part of your everything. And one thing that I found when I first did Jamboards, they wanted to hit that plus, and I'd have 45 pages before I knew it. So I caution people with Jamboard to say this: you establish how you want it to look and what the expectations are, and then those kids learn it, and it is just, it's powerful. So you can see that little black square, it says directions. Those are things that I would go over with my kids every single day. Like, you get one slide. If it's a collaborative slide, you don't fool with other people's, other than maybe sliding it to the side. And I didn't have any issues with it once the kids really saw what it could do. I really like that it's manipulative. So like that on the top right one with what is it, Patrick from SpongeBob, the kids can drag those around. They can copy that slide and have their own. Then the parking lot is just like exit tickets. And then I would have one for each class. In fact, I would make one Jamboard have 3 pages in it, and I had sections in my class. So this section, you're on Jamboard 1, this section you're on Jamboard 2, and then that way it didn't get overflowed. Like overflowed parking. Haha, didn't even try that too hard. And then the one on the bottom, I just did that to show you can attach your camera. And so you can have some fun, and kids can have fun with that. All right, go to the next one for me. All right, this one I won't have to say too much about it. I was talking to my colleague Lindsay. She's in here somewhere. She's trying to hide in a black square, I think. But Google Classroom question feature, y'all, is not something I feel like it's underrated and underlooked because it is just a basic feature of Google Classroom. I used it, and I'm gonna tell you, I did formal walkthroughs and observations of teachers, and of course, I was on the receiving end of that as well. I found that teachers could get more out of just a simple Google Classroom question, so they know where to go with their next part of their lesson than they did on things that they would spend 30 minutes creating. I did so many on the fly questions like, ooh, class is about to end. I'm not sure that we are where we need to be for tomorrow. Y'all, all it is classroom create question and you plug a question in. I do have a couple things highlighted there on the bottom right. Students can reply to each other. I usually had that turned off because, 8th graders, that's all. That's just, and then I did the students can edit their answer if I wanted them to go back and reflect. Go ahead and hit the next one for me, Josh. I think I have a sample. Yeah, so this is one in particular that I had used. And this was a self-reflection. Isn't that little dog so cute? It makes me want to do my head too. So the kids would go do their scoring. They'd use their own rubric or our state rubric and go do a reflection piece on it. So that let me know where do I need to be with them the next day. As an observer, that's powerful. That's knowing your kids. That's meeting them where they are. You can give them feedback in their documents based off of what they put there, but don't underestimate the Google Classroom question. Okay. I'm trying not to spew all this at you, but I have so much. Look, there's Lindsay. She didn't even have to turn her camera on. I got her in there anyway. These are just some little lanyard things. John talked about the audio tools in Google. Y'all, that is so good. I had kids who could articulate things to me like, hey, can you tell me how the character was developed in this part of the text? And they could tell me, but when I'd say, okay, now write it, they couldn't because it was just hard to get those words together. They could go into any of the Google Suite place, like any of the, what did you call it, John? The ecosystem. I need to start using that. That makes me sound, that's
The
elegant.
Google ecosystem. Yeah.
The Google ecosystem has this audio tool. They can go turn that on and speak it. And then they can edit their text. If you don't know Google Keep, that's on the top right. Great for creating to-do lists and even doing, you can make little favorite notes that you can add into your, I can't even remember the word for it, your comment sections. And then just a reminder that in Google Slides, you can insert videos and you can decide where you want it to play. So if you find a YouTube video and you only want to show the 2 minutes that are in the middle of it, you can make that happen. Just go into Google Slides, insert video, and you can adjust settings. And then, of course, we have the captioning. Oh, that was a lot.
Yeah, you know what? It is a lot, but I will say this. If it feels like you're drinking from a fire hose, it's because you are a little bit. We've given you a ton of stuff really fast, really furious, but it doesn't have to just end right here. This is the last slide. Is that right, Kate? So, you can continue this dialogue with us. There's opportunities for you to get involved. If you're worried like, hey, which of these things are free? Which one do I need to pay for? We can break down all of that stuff. We'd be more than happy to do that. And if it's a situation where you're looking at paid features and you need help, getting that quoted out, we can connect you with, none of us sell, but we can get you connected to our sales team who can help facilitate all of that. So, Kate, do we have we're almost at time, but that's what I was looking for. Yeah, a survey. Yeah, this is awesome. So do this. I know it's a lot of content. It came at you really fast and furious. Take a quick second, fill out this survey, and let us know if there's things that we need to circle back around to at a future webinar. And if you're interested in learning anything about these features, if you need to be connected with a sales rep, of course, you can fill all that out here. And this is the way you get your coffee. I know we're at time. Listen, you guys have been awesome. And I love the chat. The comment section was so active. You guys participated with us, and that means a lot to me. I hope you guys have an awesome Thursday. Great end of the day. Thank you all, Anna, John, Kristin, you guys killed. Lindsay, you had a little cameo in there. You guys killed. Thank you all for doing this. Kate, thanks for putting this together. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Happy Friday Eve.
Long weekend on the way. That's nice too.